So here we are, the year is 2023, and it seems to me that we've been in a little bit of a situation in the gaming industry over the past decade. We've had a little bit of a story being unfolded here. And, it's got some highs, mostly lows, but I like to look on the bright side. And on the bright side, the thing about games is if a good game comes out, we get a good game. We buy it, we play it, it's a good game, not a problem. If we get a bad game, and it could even be an expensive bad game, $40, $50, $70, $100. At least we know we're going to get some good content out of it. And the content's going to be free, right? So if you win, you win. If you lose, you win. There's some silver lining in all of this. And so that really begs the question about Starfield, right? Is it really a bad game? Is it that bad? And to answer that question, before you answer that question for any game, you always have to ask, who is it for? Hello Kitty Adventure Island might not be the greatest game for me, but Hello Kitty Adventure Island might be a great game for my sister. And so it begs the question about Starfield. Who is this game for? Just yesterday, I was having a little chit chat with my brother. He's young, he's 19 years old. And I said, hey, have you heard of Starfield? And he said, yup. I'm like, oh, wow, how do you hear about it? Did your friends tell you about it? He said, well, yeah. I'm like, oh, well, who was it? And my brother said, well, it's this 26-year-old Microsoft employee programmer. And this didn't shock me one bit. And it seems like Bethesda is a studio. It's been around for a while. A lot of people have a lot of nostalgia for it. There's nostalgia from Skyrim and Fallout. And a lot of people who even have the money to purchase Starfield, which is $100 for early access, $70 to purchase normally, it's going to attract some older people. And the reason why that is, besides, you have the nostalgia factor with Bethesda and all this, as we get older, we go out there, we get clapped by life. You got work, you got stress, you got kids, you got whatever's going on. You're getting kind of, fucked around a little bit by life. And then you get home. Do you really want to get fucked around with again by a 14-year-old on Fortnite? Do you really want to get messed around with after you have your long day, you're tired, you're exhausted, you want to wind down by some 20-year-old in League of Legends? Probably not, right? And for that reason, it seems to me like the exploration genre is something that can appeal greatly for adults. You have a monotonous day, you might have a monotonous week, it might be a monotonous year or 3 years. And so the idea of being able to explore a galaxy, to travel without traveling, and not just to travel to Hawaii or to Spain, but to travel to new planets is something that is appealing. It's been appealing for a while. This pipe dream of this infinite galaxy to explore has been around since Star Wars Galaxies. And this is something that was kind of marketed back around 2015 with No Man's Sky. So it's not this new idea. And game developers know that this idea is something that is popular and has been popular in the minds of gamers for quite a while now. So it wasn't that big of a risk to go out there and try to do that from a marketing perspective. This is something that Bethesda knew that people would want. Now, here's the question, right? We're going to get a little bit philosophical here. Can AI generate meaningful content? Because that seems to be one of the biggest problems with Starfield. Starfield, yeah, sure, it has a lot of planets and it has a lot of things to explore, but quite a big chunk of it is procedurally generated. And given that that's the case, is that something that could provide a meaningful exploration experience? It's kind of like the way I like to think about it is you have a bunch of paragraphs, right? You have a paragraph, you have a second paragraph, you have a third paragraph, and then you just keep mixing and matching them into new books. Maybe you have 100, 500 paragraphs, and you just keep changing around the order, and each order is a different book. Does that sound like a book that carries a lot of meaning to it when you're running around and exploring a galaxy that is procedurally generated? Is that something that's going to feel as good as something that was handcrafted by a developer, by a skilled and talented developer? I don't think so. And, I'm not close-minded to idea that that might be the case one day, but for now, that's not the case. It's not something that is an enjoyable experience. But here's the thing. The masses writ large already are hyped up about the idea of being able to escape the monotony of their day to day, to be able to relax after a long day and explore a new galaxy. It's an extremely appealing idea. So the marketing is already there because of the principle or the concept or the promise behind the game. And to add injury to insult, to add fuel to the fire, we have a little bit of a situation that we've kind of had in the gaming industry for a while now, known as access journalism. And if you're not familiar with what that is, what access journalism is you have a company like Bethesda, right? You have a game studio, and they're coming out with a new game. And you want to do some marketing, you want to build some hype around your game. So what do? Of course? You give early access copies to some game journalists. You give one to IGN, etc., right? And everyone gets a copy. Not everyone, though. Here's the catch. You give it to people who you know are going to give you positive reviews. And the game journalist companies themselves also know that there's something for them to benefit from this arrangement, because if they get the game early, then they get to be the first to review it, then they get early mover advantage. So it's a win-win situation. And so Bethesda, or whichever game studio, hands out these early access copies to game journalists that they know are going to give it a positive review. And people who are busy, they maybe don't keep up with gaming, maybe they, haven't gone through the cycle enough times to really see what's going on here, see that the game has, a 90 on Metacritic, or a 95 on Metacritic, or whatever. And this inflates the value that they're really going to get out of the game. And what happens is they often end up leaving disappointed. Now, here's the problem, right? Here's the big problem. Little old Timmy or Bobby or Billy, doesn't matter. Susie, okay? After they've bought the game, they played for a week, they put it down, maybe they were a little bit disappointed, and they kind of forget about it. And life goes on. And life is busy. Next month, the new game comes out. Diablo 4 comes out. Diablo 5, doesn't matter. Next game comes out. Next month, they're going to do it again. The game journals are going to do the same thing. The game companies are going to do the same thing. You're going to have things like Twitch drops with all of this, hype marketing going on. People are going to buy it again. They're going to play it, put it down, probably be disappointed with it, and do it the next month. And that's just the way the internet works in general, It's often said in PR, if you're in a little bit of a situation as a company or as a content creator or someone who just puts out media on the internet, wait it out a month, 2 months. People will forget about it. And then it's like it never happened, And so, this is really the thing that boggles my mind. How does this happen? And it reminds me of the situation that we were having with Baldur's Gate 3. When Baldur's Gate 3 came out, there was a lot of conversation from Western game developers saying things like, oh no, the bar is raised. Oh no, Baldur's Gate 3 is too good. How are we ever going to, rise up to those standards? And it did raise the standards. Baldur's Gate 3 as a video game did raise the standards for a lot of consumers, for a lot of gamers. And given that that's the case, a lot of these game developers feel like they have to rise up to the plate. But what they're essentially saying when they're saying that we are frustrated that the standard has been risen on us is that we want to keep being lazy. We want to keep putting in minimal effort. We want to keep having minimal talent and reaping high rewards, reaping high profits, and doing it year over year, month over month. But this is what they're asking for. And, and it makes me kind of wonder why that is, Despite my appearance, I'm actually in my 20s still. I am actually a Zoomer. I am not a millennial. And what a lot of older people like to say about millennials is that, oh, this is the participation trophy generation. You show up, you get a prize. I hate to say it, but is that what's going on here? Have we kind of ended up with a generation of game developers that are used to getting something for nothing, and they're entitled to continuously getting something for nothing? Is that what this is? So, is Starfield kind of in that same situation? And I think that might be the case. The original talent at Bethesda, the people who made Skyrim came out well over a decade ago. You know, that talent is long gone and you got new people in there. It's the same situation you see with Blizzard. It's the same situation you see with a lot of Western studios, where it's a studio that's been around for a while, and the people pumping out the games now are not the people who were pumping out the games when the games were still good, but they have that reputation still. You know, and marketing has just been getting better and better, and it's becoming closer to a science than an art. You know, how to manipulate people into giving you their money and then to do it again the next month and the next month and the next month. Now, I want to wrap up this video with talking about the fact that it seems like some content creators have been upset that while Starfield was in early access, you know, it just came out of early access at the time I'm recording this video just today, it released officially. But before then, it was in early access. And on Steam, if a game's in early access, you can refund it at any time so long as it's not a released game. So you have the streamer Quinn, right, who played the game, had 25 hours in the game, and was able to refund it and get his $100 back. Now, another content creator I watched saw this, commented on this, and said that this might as well be theft. It might as well be theft that Quinn dared to buy the game for $100, played for $25, and then refunded. Well, you know, shame on him. How are we letting him do that? And I kind of wanted to comment on that a little bit. Because the thing is, number one, both Steam and Bethesda knew the terms going into this. They knew that they're putting out a game, they're doing it willingly, and they said it in their terms and conditions that so long as the game is still in early access, you get a full refund. So that cannot be comparable to theft because every party involved was willing to do the sort of transactions that they did. And not only that, but whatever happened to demos? Remember back in the day when you could demo a game to see if you liked it or not? And then if you liked it, you could spend money on it? Starfield is anywhere from $70 to $100. And to my knowledge, has no demo. So you're expecting people, just because it's a Bethesda game, it's a company that people know, or it's a company that threw a lot of money into marketing. You're expecting people to risk, and you know, this is people's hard-earned money here, $70 to $100 just to see if a game is good. And then maybe they don't. And the thing about Starfield too is a lot of people say it doesn't get good until after 10, 20 hours. But the refund window, if a game is not in early access on Steam, is 2 hours. So just to get to the parts where allegedly the game is supposed to get enjoyable, people are going to have to reach a point where their game is no longer refundable. What's that about? How is that not consumer unfriendly? How is it theft from the consumer to refund a product that they didn't like when that's what they're allowed to do? Meanwhile, the game developers themselves are kind of doing this sort of, marketing that's this hype marketing that's kind of trying to hide what's really behind the curtain of a game by selling a dream, in this case, the dream of this infinite exploration, which they know is what people want. But it's not a scam that we don't get demos anymore. Why are our standards dropping? And why are we defending these companies? And that's really all I had to say for this one. On this channel, we talk about games, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.